This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is your When Losing Is Not an Option leader fan radio network.
Sorry, KFAN.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 12 seconds past 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a big Monday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a very fall-like weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities that we affectionately refer to as Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I'm the host of the program. Guardsy is out today. Brett Blakemore is in that chair today as well. And are we going the distance today? Any wild hockey to preempt us?
As far as I know, we're going the distance.
I think we're going till 6:30 today. We've got a bunch of outstanding award-winning Vikings talking points to get to that Guardsy has put together before he had to do some other duties. And we have an outstanding array of guests today between now and 6:30 as well. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open. 646-86. That's 646-86. Already, a lot of good texts are coming in. And I will tell you that couple things about Vikings over Europe, especially London. I found myself yesterday morning officially in the category of I don't like these early games. They screw up. I feel like I'm out of whack the entire day. I don't ever get back to where I want to. I know the league's not going to shut the game down because of me, but I wonder if anybody else is in that classification. Obviously, you watch it. Obviously, you make time for it. It's the Vikings. But, man, it throws off all the rhythms on a Sunday. I don't even think any other games interest me as much. I don't get caught up. I feel like I'm half asleep. I'm getting up at a time I don't want to. I'm starting the clock quicker than I want to. Thankfully, we're done with that for the 2025 season. Not the NFL, but the Minnesota Vikings. And the other thought I had as I'm watching the game and as I was attempting overnight to sort of process it is that I do believe that game fell under the classification of losing was not an option. Now, you can take that a couple of different ways. You can take it the obvious way, which is, well, they really needed a win. A must win. Does that sound crazy in early October? Maybe not so much. To come back to the home country down in the standings 2-3 record, below 500, not good when you're allegedly playing the soft part of your schedule. So to that extent, I think the Vikings understood the solemnity of the occasion, except perhaps for one wide receiver, although ultimately, that's why talent's undefeated, man. Jordan Addison. You'll notice that even though he got punished and he wasn't allowed to play in the first quarter, you noticed he was allowed to play in the fourth. Coaches aren't dumb, man, no matter how far they go about discipline. Talent's undefeated. Flat out. I mean, let's face it, if Jordan Addison was an ordinary receiver, he might be cut by now. He might not be even in the league at this point, but he's gifted. And we wrap up with that late drive, and I couldn't help but think, well, losing was not an option because I don't think the Cleveland Browns were going to let you lose. I honestly believe that if the Vikings had not scored on that last possession, they'd have gotten the ball back 2 more times from the Browns. I just shook my head at the ineptitude of the opposition through much of that game on so many levels. The doofus factor, as it was revealed, on so many levels as well. And I came away from the conclusion that losing that game was not going to be an option. The Browns were not going to allow it to happen one way or another. No matter how many possessions it took, it was very clear that the Browns were not going to move the ball any longer. And they weren't even going to be able to run the ball very well any longer after they'd been brilliant doing it for much of the ball game. So the Vikings come away with the needed win. I don't know how you come out of that game thinking we're on our way. I guess you can finesse it by saying, well, we literally are playing a backup offensive line. Now we come to find out, and I don't know where this is. I'll ask Johnny Athletic about this, even though I don't think he made the trip. Johnny's going to be with us at 4. I'm confused, and perhaps this has been established earlier in the day on the project. Snap count for Darrisaw now. I think he was on the field for 77 snaps last week, and he was cut off at 46 this week. So I'm confused about that. I feel like we've been sold a bill of goods all along. The communication on Darrisaw right on schedule has been deceptive at best, a flat-out lie at worst. And but you can, again, say, well, we don't have our line yet, and give us a chance. Now we got the bye week. We got a chance to put an offensive line together that at least was, in theory, improved from over a year ago. You can finesse it that way if you'd like. I'm on record, and I know there's a lot of Macobos who are very unhappy with me on this. I believe Carson Wentz should start against Philly. I really do. And I'm not even saying it because of the revenge factor. It's a good angle. It's a good storyline. I don't think coaches can think that way or make decisions on that basis. But Carson Wentz has actually grown on me since he's been with this team, mainly because I think he has shown, I know, again, Brosmer Brownstone people were ecstatic at halftime because it looked like what? Shoulder. He's done for the day at least. Wentz is out. Brosmer's in. Right? That's what they, I mean, can you imagine how giddy Guardsy was, who had predicted it? I mean, he was, over the moon.
Why do you think I'm filling in today? He's so disappointed.
That's probably true. And then he gets let down, and the veteran comes back, makes enough plays. That last drive was great. And look, I'm not pretending that he's on a path to be an MVP candidate this year. I'd start him. And maybe I still have too much recency bias on JJ. I think I was traumatized by what I saw from that last game from JJ McCarthy. Perhaps too much so. I don't know. But I'd play Wentz out till he stinks, till the team loses. There's still going to be plenty of time for J.J. McCarthy. It's okay to slow the clock a little bit. Not going to make a difference. Doesn't really matter. And, you know, I know there's a lot of talk, including on this station, that, well, unless you think Carson Wentz can lead you to a Super Bowl, you start J.J. McCarthy. That sounds good in theory, I will grant. But it leaves out, I think, an important part of the story. Even if you think J.J. McCarthy is more likely to eventually lead you to a Super Bowl than Carson Wentz is, what if you've come to the realization that he's more overwhelmed than you thought he'd be at this point, and that you actually need to slow play him a little bit? I think you have to throw that into the mix here. It's not simply about, well, in the grand scheme of things, eventually, who's going to be greater? You have to feel that he's ready to make a significant jump right now in order, I think, to make it a no-brainer that, well, as soon as JJ's ready, you got to go to him. So that will be the intriguing story during the bye week, obviously. That'll keep us going through that long stretch. What ultimately KOC decides to do on that occasion. But God bless the Cleveland Browns, man, and their offense. And I'm not going to put it all on the quarterback. What's the name of the young quarterback, the third-round pick that they played?
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. First of all, is Dylan Gabriel like 5'6"? He's listed at 6 feet.
He's not big.
He looks to me like he's about 5'5". There's no way he's 6 feet. He's too little, first of all, I think. Secondly, again, he made a few nice plays. He made a few nice throws, but when he made how many either throwaways or balls 20 yards over the head of the receiver did he throw? My God, you have to beat. The Vikings had no choice but to beat the Cleveland Browns yesterday. And thank God it was the Browns. Because I don't know how many other teams they would have beaten. I'm not sure there's another team they would have beaten other than the Cleveland Browns. But they got them on the schedule. The soft, creamy part of the schedule is over. I get it. Don't text me with, well, really? What about the Ravens, Dan? Have you checked them out lately? Well, I'm banking on the possibility or probability that Lamar will be back by then. They're a mess right now, no question. Chargers, okay, yeah, I get it, but it's there. And I still wouldn't love their chances in that situation, even though they look like they're going the wrong direction. I understand all these things. I said this a long time ago. A good team comes out of that 5-game stretch with a record of 4-1. A great team comes out of it at 5-0. An okay team comes out of it at 3-2. In fact, check the numbers on strength of schedule to this point. And I believe the Vikings have one of the softest schedules to this point in all of the National Football League. Now, that can change, but I think that's the reality of this thing as we move forward. As I said, talking points today, Johnny Athletic at 4, Ben Lieber later in the 4 o'clock hour. No Adam Thielen today on their way back from London. Hopefully we'll get Thielen tomorrow or perhaps later in the week. But a very good in-studio guest as well. We're going to be joined pretty regularly again by Wolves point guard Mike Conley. And Conley is going to sort of kick off his appearances with us for this season by stopping by our studio. He's going to be with us in studio between 5 and 5:30. I am very much looking forward to that visit as well. So power packed, and as I said, a lot of really good Vikings talking points, including, I think, the most underrated, undervalued, and not talked about all enough doofus factor as exhibited yet again by the Cleveland Browns. Time to do some bonus bucks?
Yes, the fan and 2 men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to win those bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is money. Keyword money, KFAN.com. Keyword money. We all remember that one teacher who made a difference, believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Well, now's your chance to say thank you in a big way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. You can nominate your favorite teacher now. iHeartRadio.com/teachers. iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
Reception was spectacular. Couldn't get out of bounds. 21-yard hit. Vikings with one timeout remaining, trailing by 3. 1:15 and counting to go, 1st and 10. The other 8 are right around the line of scrimmage as Dylan Gabriel tries it again. He's going to throw this one short, and the receiver cannot get out of bounds. And the Minnesota Vikings have improved to 5-0 in London. They'll beat the Cleveland Browns 21-17, and they had to run them down from behind.
Good highlights from the project on the call. Dateline London, England. Bumper to Bumper is on the fan. Barreiro and Blakemore with you till 6:30 tonight. It is worth noting that the head coach is saying that Carson Wentz who suffered that shoulder injury, left shoulder injury, that had him in the blue tent for a while. And then seemingly, well, he was listed officially, I think, at halftime as questionable, but then came back, the only snap he missed was a kneel down at the end of the first half from Brosmer. Have you ever seen a better kneel down, in all honesty? Have you ever seen, this guy's never done a kneel down as a pro. Looked like he'd done it for years, didn't it?
I've never seen a more polished, just absolutely professional kneel down.
Unbelievable what a good kneel down that was. Did he look scared to you?
You got to credit PJ Fleck.
Yeah,
I think he might need another extension after that.
Well, don't be surprised. No, but apparently there's further testing going on Wentz's shoulder because it's still very sore. So I guess you have to factor that into the mix. Maybe a Wentz injury will supersede the lingering effects of the JJ injury and might also have some impact during this 2-week stretch that the Vikings now have open on who ends up starting in our return engagement against the Philadelphia Eagles. Somebody's telling me, can you find a strength of schedule to this point?
So I did look that up.
Somebody's saying I have it exactly wrong regarding the Viking strength of schedule through the first 5 games of the season.
So here's what I've got. It comes from a website, powerrankingsguru.com, which clearly can't be wrong.
All right.
The strength of schedule remaining.
Well, yeah,
I'm going to get to
it. Okay.
The strength of schedule remaining, the Vikings have the most difficult.
Literally
the most difficult.
Okay.
The strength of schedule so far, they have the 3rd easiest, only behind the Cardinals and the Bills.
Yeah, that's right. So 507 guys lost his mind here. He's saying that only 6 teams have had a more difficult slate of opponents this year. I know I read what I read Friday. I didn't have the exact number, but I knew we were on the soft side early. I also understand, and that's part of the reason some of us have said, go 5-0 for my go. Go 4-1, right? Give yourself a little margin for error when you get into this middle section that seems, at least on paper, to be so challenging. That was kind of the whole point of it, but be that as it may. I know most of you know, and Dan Minnesota has made a big deal of it. This is the very emotional anniversary, the 20th anniversary of Love Boat. And I remember it well. What I remember most about it is that I recall doing Mike Tice Live later that week. And we were doing it on that occasion at a bar. I don't remember where we were, and it was obviously a very strange occasion because that's all anybody wanted to talk about. I don't even remember how much Tice was willing to talk about it, but that's a lot of what we got into. In any case, Love Boat, 20 years ago. It feels like it was only yesterday. And the quote, the tweets that is getting the most attention, as I'm sure many of you know, is from Samantha Van Ginkel. Did you see this one? Have you heard about this one?
No.
This is remarkable. Vicologist had tweeted about the anniversary, like a lot of people, including Dan Minnesota, have. By the way, this is also the anniversary of Dan Minnesota's first book that I did the forward for as well. So it's an emotional day for him.
Is that still available?
You kidding me? Of course it's available. You didn't think it was?
I just wanted to know.
Well, it's sold very, very well, but it is still available. More on that in a minute. So Samantha Van Ginkel sees the reminder from Vicologist, and here's what her reply was. As a lifelong Vikings fan, I'll never forget what happened the last time a boat was involved. So when a few people started planning a cruise on Minnetonka for bye week, I dropped an article in the group chat with all the details. Safe to say, no one's setting sail this week. Brilliantly played by Samantha Van Ginkel, I believe the wife of our Van Ginkel, correct? So, yeah, I mean, I said this, I think, Friday. My recollection, and it's not always the best. In fact, when it goes back that far, you almost want to sometimes embellish to add to the legend as if the story wasn't rich enough, is that the irony of the whole drama was that it probably never would have been reported It might not have led to any place, no matter what did or didn't take place on the boat itself, the Allen Alma's boat, if several players had waited to pee at home or at a public restroom. But the word was several of them decided to pee in somebody's backyard on the way out of there after getting off the boat. And that got reported, and that got this whole ball of wax going. Kevin Seifert, who I'm assuming is going to join us later this week back from across the pond, was in the middle of the coverage, and he'll have a much better memory than I. But I think that was a big part of it, is that it might have been one of those stories that never, there's a million of those stories that never get told, and this one might have also been in that classification, but I believe that's what ultimately got in the way. So there you have it. You were probably too young to even remember the Love Boat, right?
I actually, I knew there was some controversy going on, but that was before my time. They had, I don't know how it had to be a massive boat. Was this thing just, because they had hundreds of people on there? I don't think there were that many, but there was a good size. I want to say, I can't remember how many were there. And of course, one of the big, talking points was that the exotic dancers got imported. Was it from Atlanta? And then that got the local angle people going, well, what's wrong with our exotic dancers? What's wrong? Why can't you keep it low? Like the Colorado Sod thing, even with exotic dancers. So it was one of those moments, man, that will always live in infamy. And again, my guess is there's a bunch of those things that tend to happen, with people with a lot of money, athletes especially, that have never seen the light of day. And unfortunately for the Vikings, this one did. So also, going to go along with the power rankings guru, which can never be wrong, according to the Wikipedia article, that can never be wrong.
Yes.
There were at least 90 people on the two boats, and Smoot later...
it's two boats, yeah, that's right.
Smoot later estimated that there were 100 women present.
100?
100 women present.
Well, that's Smoot. He might have been exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, he was... I guess it's possible. I guess anything is possible. So here... listen to this list for today. Some of it calamitous, some more celebratory. On this date in 1963, the Vikings lose to the St. Louis Cardinals 56-14. Biggest home loss deficit in franchise history, 56-14. In 1969, on this date, Twins lose 11-2 and get swept by the Orioles in the ALCS. On this date in the year 2000, you know what happened? Minnesota Wild played its first official game ever. I was there for it. We get edged by the Ducks 3-1, and I got admonished in the Anaheim press box for swearing. I was on the phone. I want to say it was with Patrick Royce, and we were just having a conversation. I don't know what the subject was. And I might have sworn. And one of the attendants approached me and said, sir, there's certain rules. This is a Disney, the whole deal. I had no idea, but that's the only time in history that I recall being admonished for swearing in a press box. And that was the occasion. Also on this date, 2002, Pohlad finally admits to volunteering for contractions, saying, I don't feel guilty in the least. We mentioned the 2005 Love Boat 20th anniversary is today. In 2006, the Twins were swept by Oakland in the ALDS. I think we scored like 3 runs total in that series. And in 2020, so 5 years ago today, History of Heartbreak was released. This is the 5th anniversary of the best-selling Dan Minnesota classic, Minnesota History of Heartbreak. I was honored to have a chance to write the foreword. It's all I do. Other people write books. I just write forwards for books. History of Heartbreak, Dan Minnesota, the Royce book. It's easier. It doesn't take quite as much teeth gnashing to get the thing done. All right, let's stay on schedule. Let's make this the bottom of the hour pause. A lot of interesting texts are coming in. I got some talking points to get to early regarding the Vikings' victory. People are weird, though, because they're now mad at me for not appreciating the victory after saying some games you just have to win. What I said was many of the same people who texted last Thursday and Friday and said, we can't win this game. Cleveland's too good, or Cleveland's too scary, or we're too injured. My mantra was, you got to just go win the games. I mean, that's at some point, somebody's got to step up. And by the way, the guy who stepped up, let's be honest, was Carson Wentz that last drive. 9 for 9? Are you kidding me? And by the way, I also think the head coach had a very good series of play calls as well during that stretch. Come back, though, and we have to acknowledge at least Guardsy's Minnesota Golden Gophers. What the hell was that?
KFAN welcomes Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 2 amazing shows at Target Center, December 28th, 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Tickets on sale now. Get complete show details, including a link to buy tickets, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
I think on either Thursday or Friday's show, I suggested there were people, college football insiders, who believed that, or still probably believe, that the Ohio State defense this year might be historic. And I sent that out. I issued that kind of as a warning to giddy Gophers fans who thought, why not us? Why not now? And I know they got giddier after we systematically drove down the field for that game opening drive in which we had to unfortunately settle for 3, but at least we moved. I think those were the only points Ohio State had given up in a first quarter so far this season. That defense looked rather historic again on Saturday night against the Gophers. But I have to tell you, that was a no-show. Now, it may well be Ohio State's on the fast track to win another national championship, but they have not been routinely blowing people out. They've played defensively very well, but they have not been blowing out teams the way they blew, certainly teams in a major conference, the way they did the Gophers. You want to talk about being humbled? That was as humbling an evening of football as this program has had in a long time. Wasn't it PJ who had told us before the season? What was the quote? The lid's off the jar, the cap's off the jar. In other words, sky's the limit. And I lauded it at the time because I think what he was trying to say is, why can't we be Indiana of a year ago? Cap's off the jar. Well, I don't know how to break it to PJ. That was a vacuum sealed cap in Columbus on Saturday night. That was not even remotely competitive. That's a problem to me. I get it. Again, number 1 ranked team. You're playing them there. You're not supposed to beat them, but are you supposed to be humiliated by them? That was not a ball game after the initial drive. That was literally not a football game. I've watched that game under several other coaches, including Jim Wacker. That was awful. Their defense could do nothing with the Buckeyes. And as I said, the offense, after that first drive, got nowhere. It was almost like, well, I can't believe we let you score these 3. Okay, now we're going to get serious about this thing. That was a definite... There was nothing cap off the jar about that performance. Now, fortunately for them, they've got an easier opponent coming. I think it's Purdue next, if I'm not mistaken. They're in a relatively softer part of their schedule, but that was bad. That did not look like a team that you're dreaming about saying, well, maybe they get hot, they get some. And let's face it, the first indicator of the fact that there are limits to this team right now, and perhaps even this program, was the California game. Now, I gave them great credit for coming from behind. In another game, I think they had to win because it was at home against Rutgers. But that felt like 3 losses, not 1. It was not good. Vikings talking points. Got plenty to get to. Johnny Athletic's going to join at the top of the hour. I think it's only right that we start with a montage saluting one player, one member of the 2025 Minnesota Vikings.
My job is to go out there and get open and make plays. You know, that's the main thing. It's all about going out there and making plays. Being doubled, being tripled, single coverage, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter who's throwing that ball. 18 is going to go out there and make a play.
Wentz out of the shotgun, back to pass, throws left and is caught. Justin Jefferson first down. Near the sideline at the 34 to the 35, out of bounds at the 36. It's a 15-yard first down hit. Wentz to Justin Jefferson. The Vikings scrimmage from their own 36, trailing 7-0. Naylor in motion to the left. Wentz with a quickie caught between the numbers and the hash mark. Jefferson at the 46, thrust down at the 48 for a gain of 12. And another first down for the Minnesota Vikings.
You almost have to throw the football that way and just count on him making a play, because JJ has that kind of catch radius. And if they keep doing this one-on-one business, we're going to get a big play out of it at some point.
First down, offset eye right. It's a fake handoff from under center. Wentz throwing left, caught. Justin Jefferson at the Cleveland 35. On Greg Newsome, who singled him. That's a 21-yard reception and a first down. And for Justin Jefferson, he now has 59 receiving yards on 4 catches. Receivers right, one to the left. Xavier Scott to the left of Carson Wentz. Straight drop. Throws one over the middle to Jefferson. Caught at the 45. Ooh! He almost spun clear for a 75-yard touchdown. But a Brown saved the day for the home team. That's still a first down for the Vikings to the 36-yard line. And it's a 39-yard connection. Wentz to Justin Jefferson.
And, Paul, that is the definition of a 50-50 ball. He had a defender right in his face who's getting ready to be hit by Mason Graham. He just let that thing fly, and what a job by Justin Jefferson to go up and make that ball his.
Wentz shotgun, first down, throws right, and it's caught by Justin Jefferson at the 26 on Denzel Ward, and that reception was spectacular.
It's what he does, and it should never be taken for granted. We've had a lot of celebration regarding the Wild's ability to get the long-term extension done with Kaprizov. And what did we say as soon as that became official? Honeymoon's over. Great. We celebrate it for this afternoon. We'll congratulate Bill Guerin for this afternoon, but starting tomorrow, you're on the clock. You have to, and that means taking full advantage of what that sort of rare talent offers you. Maximizing. And what does maximizing mean? Well, at the highest end, it means winning a title. Short of that, it means making some playoff runs. And I think the same applies for JJ. Last night, or I guess you should say yesterday morning our time, 7 catches, 123 yards, a long of 38, which you heard, targeted 11 times. He was brilliant. And it's what I do love about him. He's got that athletic arrogance about, I don't care how many people you have around me, I'm going to make the play. He runs in just ridiculous routes and was very key. I'm heartened to hear that he's going to try to be a little bit more frontal with his teammate Jordan Addison about, staying on a straighter line and not missing a walkthrough, which still stuns me. Obviously, Addison had the late catch for the title, or for the victory. But the clock's running on JJ. And even if you think JJ McCarthy can be the long-term quarterback that helps him make runs, you got to be right. And you want it to happen fast during these key glory years for Justin Jefferson. Now, he said it again. In that soundbite, he doesn't care who's throwing the ball. So far, he has not bellyached about instability at the quarterback position. How long will that continue? I don't know. But a remarkable player. And when you got remarkable players, the one thing you don't want to do is waste their talent. And so that's the job of KOC. I know in his vision That's why he says we had to do the J.J. McCarthy move, because we think his talent can help us maximize on what J.J. has to offer. But that has not happened yet. And there's no guarantee it's going to, but it needs to. Because as good a player as he is, as much of a gamer as he is, as much as that term is overused, this guy's, it burns in him, man. But it burns in him, I think, in the right way, where he doesn't generally come off as a whiny sort of, what do we think of a lot of wide receivers? High maintenance. Always about them, even though they say it's not about them. He just seems like a hell of a football player, and he had a very productive and very helpful game. Let's briefly also get to, I call this one, this is the underrated one in my view. I call this the doofus factor. Never underestimate the importance of the doofus factor to helping your team win and the other team lose.
Snap to Bojorquez, big rush. Left-footed punch. Bounces inside the 5, tapped at the 1, and downed at touchback. Wow, that was close. Wonderful play by the Browns, but then the guy who fell on it, Rex Unahara, the long snapper. Holy cow, did the long snapper get down there fast. His right foot went into the end zone, I believe, and thus it'll be a touchback, but maybe under review.
Yeah, it was McMillan, I believe, it just took a swing at the ball and just hit it back into play. So what a brilliant play by him. Nope, his foot did slide into the end zone. So that's a bit of a break. Well, you got an opportunity here for the defense to step up again. You got a rookie quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. I would expect Cleveland to keep this thing somewhere in between the hash marks. Maybe all of his throws to the outside have been very well off the mark. So
well said, Pete.
We'll see.
The Vikings go nickel, 3 corners in. Okudah, Murphy Jr., and Isaiah Rodgers on 3rd and 11 from the 40. Dylan Gabriel out of the shotgun, takes the snap, and the lefty throws aimlessly, and it goes out of bounds. Isaiah Bond, the intended receiver. So that didn't take much time off the clock. In fact,
about 3 seconds.
The timeouts. I think the whole operation took 10, maybe 12 seconds.
So 2 doofus factor angles there. Let's start with the end of that piece of sound that Guardsy put together for me. I actually agreed with the TV commentator and what Bursich just said. Well, TV guy said, even though it's 3rd and long, run the ball, because you got to make the Vikings take their last time out, even if it means you're going to give the ball back, because realistically you're going to give the ball back anyway because you can't throw outside. And that was Bursich's point. So what they try to do, throw outside. And it wasn't even close. So, would it have mattered? Maybe not, the way the Vikings were moving. But based on the way the Browns were passing, there's no way you do anything but hand the ball off again. And maybe if you're lucky, you break it, because their running game had been good until it wasn't. The other doofus factor is underrated. And I heard Ron Johnson talk about it on Vikings Wine Line after the game. And it was the long snapper, Rex Unahara. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And Ron asked the same question. What is it about the special teams goofballs that on a ball that has stopped or about to stop, this clown comes springing forward, jumping up over the top to land on the ball as if to say, I'm going to make sure it's not moving. I'm going to celebrate this moment. Because guess what happens when you do that? When you're going 52 miles an hour and you're a long snapper, you're going to slide into the end zone, you dope. And it was close. He almost held it together. But the call was right. Again, maybe it wouldn't have mattered, because I don't think anything particularly bad happened to the Vikings on that drive, or anything good. But if you're starting at the 1-inch line or the 1-yard line, who's to say? Maybe another Vikings fumble, maybe a pick, maybe a sack in the end zone, maybe a holding call in the end zone, And if you're Cleveland, you need safeties. You need block kicks as they got against your team. And you need the defense to score as much as possible. As it is, they did their job to the degree that they forced 2 takeaways. But it's unfailing how the guy, I guess, is so excited in that situation, special teams, about getting down there and landing on the ball. No one ever, I assume maybe someone does say to him what he should say to himself. I'm going really fast by my standards. I'm going to have a hard time stopping my momentum. It's not like if I jump onto the ball, I'm not going to slide. I'm going too fast. And we see it over and over again. The ball had already, there were a couple of other Browns players around it. It had stopped. It was stopping. It was in no danger of rolling back towards the end zone. So never underestimate the doofus factor on in its ability to contribute in such generous ways to the condition after yesterday's game or during yesterday's game for your Minnesota Vikings as well. We got more Vikings talking points. We might even get to one of them with Johnny Athletic. That's going to be the top of the hour. Let me remind you of the rest of the schedule. Lieber, much later in the 4. And then Mike Conley, the Timberwolves point guard, is going to join us in studio between 5 and 5:30. So we look forward to sort of reestablishing our relationship with Mike Conley. It's been ongoing for a while. It's been fruitful, I think, for both parties. And we're going to continue to use him throughout this season as well. Hopefully with him being in a key role. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. He knows the situation. He knows there are people who are waiting to see a change at the position. He thinks he's still got some basketball to play. And I know he's got a lot to say about that and maybe even about some other players on the team as well. So that'll be coming up between, I think, 5 and 5:30 as well. We will get to there was another controversy that I missed totally regarding the Reichard missed field goal, which at the time I knew absolutely nothing about. And we're going to get into some other National Football League notes as well. There are no unbeatens left, correct? The Eagles beaten late, tremendous fourth quarter in Philly by the Denver Broncos. They come from behind and win, including the 2-point decision by Gartzy's favorite National Football League head coach out in Denver. A very successful move that helped Denver win it. And then last night, in a game I was in and out of, actually, the Buffalo Bills are unseated from the undefeated category by New England Patriots. New England Patriots finally win a game that people are going to pay attention to. It's been a while. Also, did you see what happened to Belichick again Saturday? They got routed. I don't even remember who they played. Was it 30? I think it ended up being 35 or 38-10. It was 35-3 with they scored a late garbage touchdown.
38-10 Clemson.
They're a mess, man. I mean, I've tried to stand tall for Belly and say you got to give him time, and why are people rooting against him? But it just looks like it's an utter and complete disaster for a coaching legend in Chapel Hill. All the fanfare, all the money, all the resources poured into that thing, and it does not look like he's got any idea how to coach a football team. Dan, the fact that Kevin Stefanski has more Coach of the Year awards than Andy Reid is preposterous. He's overachieved with bad teams twice. The rest of his career has been mediocre or worse. Well, he has one defense, and that is he's been very unlucky at the quarterback position, obviously, in Cleveland, with the injuries and the Deshaun Watson situation. But there is something preposterous about that. Maybe it's because Stefanski's in better shape, and maybe people, they don't even know they're doing it. They hold it against Andy Reid that he doesn't carve out that mythic, is it visage or visage on the sidelines? The way all the perfectly conditioned coaches like your coach, like KOC, like the Rams coach tend to do. Is it? Maybe it's been held against Andy Reid that he's not in perfect shape. I have absolutely no idea. Let's talk more Vikings and some other stuff with our guy, Johnny Athletic. He's going to join at the top of the hour. We expect Adam Thielen later in the week. Stay tuned.